What I will pull out is the fuselage. I'm not going to unbag it at the moment. I could, but I'm going to put it back in the box when I'm done with it. This is the fuselage, and it's got the hatch on it for, I don't even know if you can see that. There you go. It's got the front seat is the hatch for where the battery compartment is. And one thing I want to note is the rest of the airplane doesn't have this issue, but it's one thing about Dynam is if you look really hard, you can see there's gaps where the fuselage is glued together, especially down on the inside in the seat compartment. There's a little bit of separation down in there. Not much. It's already dried that way, so I'm thinking I can either fill it if I want to go that far. I have access in here, but if I want to go that far, I can fill it, or I can just take some black electrical tape and just go right over it and hide it. That's no big deal there. There's a little bit of imperfections in the cowl where it's glued, but that's not a big deal either. It actually is in remarkably good shape. I really like this. There's not a ding on this, not a ding on here at all. It's already got the servos inside, and it's got the rods back here. You got 2 rods for the elevators. There we go. 2 rods for the elevators, a rod for the rudder, and inside is another control arm for the tail wheel. I just have to remember how this thing goes back in when I put it back in the box. This box here contains the landing gear and the miscellaneous hardware. I have 2 canopies in here, a forward canopy, an aft canopy. I got a control for the lighting. The lighting can be switched to flashing or it can be switched to steady. Of course, it's got some glue. It's got the decals for the cockpit. I'll bring out this here. Okay, this is the landing gear, the entire landing gear itself. And it's got plastic, I call these skirts, all right? Forgive me, I realize that they're called pants in aviation for the covers or fairings that go over the wheels. You know, some people call them landing gear fairings or wheel fairings. They can be called that or wheel pants. But they're plastic. They get screw holes here to separate the 2 halves. I imagine that if you just unscrewed this strut, which might remove the wheel, you'd be able to remove these and then put the wheel back on the strut and have a strut that did not have these pants / skirt. I was a little concerned about this when I saw the picture of it. I have seen guys flying them and taking off and landing in the grass, but they were, you know, you take off in 2 or 3 feet. I hadn't seen anybody taxi in the grass with these things. I didn't know how well they would work. So I asked about that on the forums, and one of the gentlemen in the forums happens to be a friend of Pilot Robert and Captain Blage, so he got with them and they made a video specifically for that question that I asked in the forums. They made a short video just to respond to that, to show the Waco taxiing all around their airfield in the grass with no problems whatsoever. So that really kind of helped make my decision to pull the trigger on this airplane, as opposed to the newer E-flite, the E-flite Stearman that's out there now. Also, what's in here are the struts. I'm not going to bring all this stuff out. The struts, 2 propellers. You get 2 propellers here. They're probably going to need to be balanced, but I got 2 propellers. I did forget to mention that also in this box with the wheel, it has the screwdriver, some glue, it has some wing screws, it has some prop hardware, the prop adapter, and it has the tail wheel assembly. It's all inside here, plus all of your nuts and bolts. And there's a lot of nuts and bolts in here because the struts are metal and they actually screw on with nuts, small nuts and small screws. All right, now in this box, what we have are the upper wings and the tail surfaces. Beautiful. They got built-in smaller spars, carbon fiber rods, just for support up around the leading edge. There we go. This groove here is for your wires that go out to your wingtip light. And of course, you get the ribbed aileron. This is in a remarkable condition. I love the fact that there's just no defects on this at all. I love that. Beautiful. The tail feathers. You got your vertical. It doesn't look like a defect, but it's not. It actually is. It moves around in there. It's just a piece of string of some sort. So this also is in great shape. Your vertical and your horizontal. The nice thing, one thing I do like about this, and I was surprised, oh, this does have two small stiffener rods embedded in it. But the one thing I liked about this, and I didn't expect it, being that my impression was this was an older design model that was, you can still buy a few out there in the United States and some of the retailers of the I got this from Motion RC, excuse me, it's not FMS. I got this from Motion. So you can still buy a couple of these out there. I think there's not many red ones left, but there are some yellow ones left. But the paint on this is of such quality that you really don't see the foam cells that much. It's very well done, just like my FMS, the later F18, the gray F18, the Vigilante 64mm. That was the same way. You really can't see the foam on that because it's such a well painted airplane. But this is the other wing. All right, now this is the bottom wing, and it's like I said, it's all one piece. So it's one long box in the bottom. It's one long box that it's stored in. Nice, just like the upper one, no defects to it whatsoever. Apparently a couple screws, probably metal screws to hold it on the front, one large nylon screw in the back. These are your wires from your servos. Your aileron servos come all hooked up really nice for the lower wing. The aileron servos are all hooked up. Nice clevises. And clear plastic servos. They are, I know, and a lot of people really insist on metal gearing, but I've not had any trouble with any of my servos I have on any plane so far. Most of them are plastic. So it looks pretty stout. I like it. I like what I'm seeing here. Everything looks good. And of course it has the horn on the end of the aileron for the connecting rod that goes up to the upper wing. So this is all one piece. And that's essentially everything in here. So it's really not a lot to put this together. I should be able to put together in no time if there's no issues. But apparently a lot of people have issues, so I'm going to lean towards the possibility that it may be some difficulty in assembling it. And usually that comes with getting the struts to line up with everything with the two wings. But we'll see. These are the decals that are on the bottom. They go with it. And of course, also down here is the manual. The manual is more of a one big fold out sheet. It's not a booklet. And it has all the important information. It has the center of gravity information, which apparently, from what I understand, is not exactly where they want it to be. It doesn't fly as good at that location as some other people have found. And apparently somewhere here it has, here it is, the throws, the control throws. So it has all the important things. And of course, the schematic for hooking up the electrics. It's all there. Alright guys, here we are back together again. It's all in the box. I'm not in a real hurry to put this together. I may start this today. I might start it tomorrow. I don't really know. It's raining today. It's a good day to do it. But you know, when you're married and you're getting into a hobby like this, you got to be very cognizant about what your wife is, your spouse is experiencing with your new expenditures. So I'm careful about what I buy and when I buy it, and the spacing between putting things together like this. I don't want my wife to get too excited that I'm just throwing money away on planes one after the other. Even though it's been a year since I bought one. She does see these on the table when I'm working on them, and she knows that I'm constantly working on these things. And I'm sure that she'd rather me be doing this than some other things, but at the same time, I don't really want to wear her thin. So I'm going to be spacing these things out. There are things that I need to do around the house. I got other hobbies and chores and responsibilities. This I'm probably going to put together fairly soon. Can't promise that, but I am going to be meticulous with it. The reason I got this airplane, one of them is I've always wanted a biplane. At least one. I wanted one biplane in my fleet. Not very long ago, I flew with Captain Chaos Canada. He came by and he had a couple bi-wing airplanes. He had the SE-5A, which is like a 37 to 40, yeah, 37, I don't know, it's a little bit smaller than this wingspan. But, and he also had his Park Zone Albatross. And so I flew with him. He and I were flying both his airplanes around at the same time. So that really kind of got the bug in me to go ahead and get a biplane like I originally wanted to. So I'll have the one biplane that I can just fly around, and that will take care of that biplane itch for me. This one right here. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm probably going to edit the crap out of this thing because I always ramble on more than I like. So once again, got my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I'm not pitching for them. I just like their cup. It's not Dunkin' Donuts coffee in here, by the way. It's one that we kind of robbed from a hotel when I was in Texas last week. So thanks again.